On a warm May evening in 2007, in the sleepy coastal town of Praia da Luz, Portugal, a 3-year-old girl vanished from her bed while her parents dined just yards away. No signs of forced entry, no witnesses, no screams in the night. One moment she was there, the next, she was gone. The world would never be the same. What began as a family holiday turned into the most haunting missing person case in modern history. The name Madeleine McCann would soon be etched into headlines, whispered across dinner tables, and speculated over in every corner of the globe. The McCann family, Jerry, Kate, and their 3 young children, including Madeleine and her younger twin siblings, had arrived in Praia da Luz, a tranquil tourist village on the Algarve coast, looking forward to a relaxing vacation. They were staying in apartment 5A of the Ocean Club Resort, a ground-floor flat with direct access to a pool and recreation area. It was picturesque, quiet, and seemingly safe. The parents had developed a routine. Each evening, they would join a group of friends at the tapas restaurant located within the resort, about 50 meters from their apartment. They dined in shifts, taking turns checking on the sleeping children every 20 to 30 minutes. On the night of May 3rd, 2007, the same pattern was followed. At 9:05 p.m., Jerry McCann checked on the children, Madeleine and her younger twin siblings, Sean and Amélie. All was well. The bedroom window was shut, and the children slept peacefully. At approximately 10 p.m., Kate McCann returned to the apartment for her turn to check. What she found changed everything. Madeleine's bed was empty. The window was open. The shutters had been raised. Madeleine, just 3 years old, was gone. Panic surged through Kate. She ran back to the restaurant shouting, "They've taken her! Someone's taken Madeleine." Her cries launched a frantic, chaotic search that would stretch late into the night and far beyond the resort's walls. Friends, resort staff, and local residents joined the desperate effort to locate Madeleine. Police were called, but by the time the apartment was treated as a potential crime scene, hours had passed. Tourists had wandered through the room. Crucial evidence may have been contaminated or lost altogether. The Polícia Judiciária, Portugal's investigative police, launched an official investigation. Sniffer dogs were brought in, border alerts were issued, airports and ports were notified. But there was no trace of the missing child, no witnesses, no CCTV footage, no DNA from an intruder. From the very beginning, the investigation was fraught with problems. Language barriers between British and Portuguese officials led to miscommunications. Initial police assumptions centered around an abduction, but as time passed without evidence of forced entry, suspicion began to shift. Media descended quickly upon Praia da Luz. The case captivated the UK and then the world. Newspapers printed Madeleine's photo on front pages for weeks. British tabloids offered rewards. TV crews stationed themselves outside the McCann's apartment. But the wider the spotlight grew, the more intense the scrutiny became, especially on Kate and Jerry McCann. Why had they left their children alone? Why hadn't they used the resort's babysitting services? What were they doing at the time Madeleine vanished? These questions turned into accusations, spawning countless theories, assumptions, and, often, baseless speculation. Still, the McCanns remained steadfast in their goal to find their daughter. They launched the Find Madeleine campaign. They gave televised interviews. They appeared before media outlets pleading for help and information. Celebrities like J.K. Rowling, Richard Branson, and even the Pope expressed support. Despite these efforts, leads dried up. Every sighting, whether in Spain, Morocco, or Belgium, proved fruitless. Praia da Luz, once a quiet resort town, had become the epicenter of a global mystery. Apartment 5A, once a place of joy and rest, was now sealed and silent. Madeleine McCann's disappearance would go on to define an era of true crime coverage, setting off a chain of investigations, controversies, and political pressure that would ripple for more than a decade. And the haunting question remained, how does a child vanish from her bed, without a sound, without a trace, and leave the world grasping for answers that still haven't come? In the immediate days following Madeleine's disappearance, the Polícia Judiciária launched what was to become one of the most scrutinized and controversial investigations in Portuguese history. Officers conducted door-to-door interviews, set up roadblocks, and checked local residences. Sniffer dogs were brought in, helicopters surveyed the terrain, and nearby beaches and abandoned buildings were combed for any trace of the missing child. The McCanns, desperate for leads, began distributing posters with Madeleine's face. Her wide, innocent eyes and distinctive coloboma in her right eye made her instantly recognizable. Portuguese media covered the story heavily, and soon, international outlets picked up the case. The British media, in particular, created a firestorm of attention, framing it as a national crisis. Despite the worldwide interest, the investigation struggled with major challenges. Language differences between British and Portuguese authorities led to delays and confusion. Portuguese laws around secrecy and ongoing investigations meant that police rarely communicated progress, or lack thereof, to the press or the McCanns. This vacuum of information was quickly filled with speculation. In July 2007, a British forensic team was brought in to assist, using ground-penetrating radar and DNA testing. Hairs and fibers were collected from a rental car the McCanns had used weeks after Madeleine vanished. Interpreting these results became a point of contention, and mistrust grew between the two investigative teams. By September 2007, frustration boiled over. Portuguese police, under pressure from media and political scrutiny, named Kate and Jerry McCann as formal suspects, or arguidos. The reasoning was based on alleged inconsistencies in their statements and the forensic findings from the rental car. The news sent shockwaves through the media, dividing public opinion and fueling tabloid frenzy. Kate and Jerry vehemently denied any involvement. They took and passed lie detector tests and continued cooperating with authorities. Nevertheless, the damage was done. Their reputations, already under the magnifying glass, were now engulfed in suspicion. In July 2008, the Portuguese Attorney General dropped all charges and formally cleared the McCanns. But by then, the investigation had reached a standstill. No arrests, no definitive leads. And most heartbreakingly, still no Madeleine. The McCann family, already shattered by the disappearance of their daughter, now found themselves at the center of a media storm that rarely offered sympathy. While thousands of strangers offered support and donations to the Find Madeleine Fund, others openly accused them of being involved in their daughter's vanishing, despite a lack of any conclusive evidence. Kate McCann, in particular, bore the brunt of public speculation. Her composure during interviews was often misinterpreted as coldness, and her refusal to cry on camera was unfairly weaponized by tabloids and online commentators. She later revealed in her memoir how damaging and emotionally exhausting it was to constantly defend her maternal instincts while enduring the unimaginable heartache of losing a child. Both Kate and Jerry were doctors by profession, grounded individuals suddenly thrust into an extraordinary situation. They returned to the UK a few months after Madeleine's disappearance, devastated but determined not to let her memory fade. Their home became a command center of sorts, a place for coordinating with legal teams, private investigators, and media consultants, all in service of finding Madeleine. They launched a website, findmadeleine.com, to spread awareness and gather donations. They hired renowned private investigators, including Spanish agency Método 3 and later former MI5 agents. Each investigation yielded new leads, but none brought them closer to Madeleine. The toll on their marriage was considerable. The shared trauma tested their bond daily. They tried to shield their twins, Sean and Amélie, from the surrounding chaos while maintaining a sense of normalcy. But the media's relentless presence, paparazzi parked outside their house, headlines accusing them of murder, was inescapable. Despite it all, the McCanns remained united in purpose. They continued to mark Madeleine's birthday each year with a vigil and public statement. They refused to give up, even as public attention began to wane. For them, Madeleine wasn't just a story or a mystery. She was their daughter, and they would not stop searching until they knew what happened to her. Their strength, resilience, and unwavering determination became a symbol for families of missing children around the world. And yet, the pain never dulled. Every quiet moment, every empty seat at the dinner table, was a brutal reminder of a life stolen too soon. In 2011, the British government, at the request of Kate and Jerry McCann, launched Operation Grange, a formal review of the case by the Metropolitan Police Service in London. The review aimed to re-examine every piece of evidence gathered over the years, and to investigate whether new leads could be generated. Led by Detective Chief Inspector Andy Redwood, the team combed through thousands of documents from both British and Portuguese police. They used advanced technology to reanalyze forensic evidence, created digital reconstructions of events, and interviewed hundreds of witnesses. One of the first major revelations came from a critical reevaluation of the timeline on the night of Madeleine's disappearance. Investigators realized that the original assumption that Madeleine was abducted between 9 p.m. and 10 p.m. may have been too narrow. This shift prompted the team to re-explore sightings and tips previously deemed irrelevant. DCI Redwood described the investigation as working on the premise that Madeleine could still be alive. This approach reignited hope among the public and renewed attention on the case. British media outlets followed each new development closely, especially when the team began identifying persons of interest. In 2013, the investigation became a full-scale inquiry. Operation Grange focused on several theories, including a potential burglary gone wrong and human trafficking. They identified multiple suspects and even conducted new interviews and searches in Praia da Luz. Dogs were brought in to search the grounds, and land near the Ocean Club Resort was excavated. However, despite these extensive efforts, no new physical evidence linked any suspect directly to Madeleine's disappearance. The case remained open but unsolved, continuing to haunt both investigators and the public. Kate and Jerry McCann praised the work of the Met Police, stating that Operation Grange gave them renewed confidence in finding the truth. Though it did not yield the breakthrough they hoped for, the investigation demonstrated that Madeleine's case had not been forgotten. And perhaps most importantly, it reaffirmed that every avenue would be explored until no stone was left unturned. In 2020, a shocking development breathed new life into the long-dormant investigation. German authorities named a new suspect in the case of Madeleine McCann, Christian Bruckner, a 43-year-old German national with a long history of violent crimes, including offenses against children. Bruckner was already serving time in a German prison for unrelated crimes, including drug trafficking and the 2005 rape of a 72-year-old woman in Praia da Luz, the same town from which Madeleine vanished. This connection immediately raised red flags for investigators in Germany and the UK. German prosecutor Hans Christian Wolters declared that they had concrete evidence that Madeleine McCann was dead, and that Bruckner was likely responsible. However, they did not release the nature of this evidence, citing ongoing investigations. This bold statement reignited global interest in the case, and once again brought Madeleine's name to headlines around the world. Bruckner had a disturbing history. He lived intermittently in the Algarve region around the time of Madeleine's disappearance, and was known for breaking into homes and hotel rooms. He drove a distinctive camper van and was believed to have lived off-grid in the area, moving between locations. Phone records placed him near the Ocean Club Resort on the night Madeleine disappeared. A mobile phone linked to Bruckner received a call at approximately 7:30 p.m. that evening, placing him in the area just before the McCanns began their dinner. Despite the mounting circumstantial evidence, no formal charges were immediately brought against him for Madeleine's disappearance. Bruckner's lawyer insisted that his client was not involved and criticized the media frenzy surrounding the announcement. The German authorities, however, were adamant. They urged the public to come forward with any information about Bruckner's activities in Portugal around 2007, particularly regarding his distinctive yellow and white Volkswagen van and a Jaguar car he was believed to have used. For the McCanns, the announcement stirred mixed emotions. On one hand, it was a step toward answers. On the other, the suggestion that Madeleine was no longer alive was a devastating blow. Still, they remained hopeful that the truth would eventually come out, and that justice would be served. The case against Christian Bruckner remains ongoing, with prosecutors continuing to build their case. While it is the most promising lead in years, it has yet to bring the final closure that the McCanns and the world have been waiting for. Since Madeleine McCann's disappearance, the role of the media has been both a catalyst for awareness and a source of immense pressure and misinformation. From the outset, the story became one of the most publicized missing person cases in modern history, dominating front pages across Europe and beyond. British tabloids in particular latched onto every rumor and piece of speculation, often blurring the line between journalism and sensationalism. The McCanns quickly became household names, not only as grieving parents but also as controversial figures. Questions about their parenting decisions, demeanor, and even possible involvement circulated widely, often without credible evidence. One of the most damaging periods came in 2008, when Portuguese police files were made public. A number of media outlets twisted details and unsubstantiated theories into damning headlines. The McCanns sued several newspapers for libel and won substantial settlements. Yet the damage to their reputation and emotional well-being was incalculable. Conspiracy theories flourished online. Some claimed the abduction was staged. Others suggested government involvement or trafficking rings protected by powerful elites. Entire forums were dedicated to dissecting the McCanns' every movement, often with disturbing levels of obsession. Despite the chaos, the media also played a crucial role in keeping Madeleine's face visible. Campaigns such as the iconic "Look Into My Eyes" poster helped ensure that her disappearance wasn't forgotten. International celebrities and public figures showed their support, amplifying the call for justice. The McCanns had to walk a fine line, using media attention to aid their search while defending themselves against its darker consequences. Over time, they became skilled media navigators, issuing carefully worded statements and only participating in interviews when it served the cause of finding Madeleine. Social media, which had exploded in the years following Madeleine's disappearance, also transformed how the public engaged with the case. On platforms like Facebook and Twitter, amateur detectives, supporters, and conspiracy theorists all found communities. Hashtags like #Sign Find Madeleine trended globally during significant anniversaries or new developments. This environment of constant scrutiny and digital sleuthing became a double-edged sword. It kept the case alive, but also distorted facts, harassed the family, and distracted from legitimate lines of inquiry. Through it all, Kate and Jerry remained focused. In 2011, Kate published a memoir titled Madeleine, which provided insight into their experience and the lasting trauma of living under a microscope. The book aimed to raise funds for the continued investigation and to reclaim their narrative from the misinformation that had plagued them for years. By this stage, the case had transcended a personal tragedy. It had become a global mystery, a media phenomenon, and a symbol of how society deals with the unknown. Still, at its heart remained a little girl who had vanished without a trace, and parents who refused to stop searching. As years passed and new cases captured public attention, many feared Madeleine McCann's story would fade into obscurity. But her parents refused to let her be forgotten. Kate and Jerry McCann transformed their grief into advocacy, championing the rights of families of missing children and becoming vocal proponents for international cooperation in child abduction cases. In 2011, with support from the UK government, Scotland Yard launched a new review of the case called Operation Grange. This initiative gave the McCanns renewed hope. Detectives meticulously re-examined the evidence, followed new leads, and worked closely with Portuguese authorities, though jurisdictional challenges continued to complicate the effort. Over time, the Find Madeleine campaign raised millions in donations. Billboards, online ads, and even supermarket posters continued to display her image across Europe. Public figures like David Beckham, Benedict Cumberbatch, and Pope Benedict XVI added their voices to the cause. Every May 12th, Madeleine's birthday, the McCanns held a vigil, releasing a statement and calling on anyone with information to come forward. Kate McCann became a prominent figure in child protection initiatives. She was appointed as an ambassador for the Missing People charity and advocated for a missing children alert system across Europe. Her work helped push legislative change and inspired other parents facing the nightmare of losing a child. Through media appearances, interviews, and fundraising, the McCanns consistently reinforced one message: until there is definitive proof otherwise, they believe Madeleine is alive and can be found. That message kept the public engaged and inspired countless volunteers, journalists, and investigators to continue pursuing answers. While public interest ebbed and flowed, significant anniversaries, such as the 10th year in 2017, brought renewed attention. Documentaries by Netflix and other networks dissected the timeline, theories, and potential suspects. These productions often reignited debate, but also drew in new audiences and tips. Even in the face of heartache, false leads, and broken promises, the McCanns remained resilient. Their commitment never faltered, even when the trail grew cold. For them, hope was not blind faith, it was a daily act of courage. As of today, Madeleine McCann has been missing for over 17 years. Despite the global reach of the case, countless interviews, and the work of multiple police agencies, the central mystery remains. What happened to Madeleine that night in Praia da Luz? The investigation into Christian Bruckner continues. German prosecutors maintain he is their prime suspect, but as of yet, no formal charges have been filed in connection with Madeleine's disappearance. Meanwhile, Operation Grange remains open, though its resources have gradually diminished over the years. The McCanns continue to seek justice, not just for Madeleine, but for all missing children whose cases have gone cold. Their tireless campaigning has helped reshape how missing persons cases are treated across Europe and raised awareness about the long-lasting trauma these tragedies leave behind. Despite the passage of time, the public's fascination endures. The McCann case is often referenced in discussions about media ethics, international law enforcement cooperation, and the internet's power to both inform and mislead. For many, Madeleine's disappearance is more than just a story. It's a reminder of how quickly life can change and how some wounds never heal. It also stands as a testament to the human spirit, to fight for truth, to demand justice, and to never give up hope. To this day, Kate and Jerry McCann leave a light on in Madeleine's room. Her toys remain where she left them. Her face, slightly older in age, progressed photos, still circulates online and in printed campaigns. And each year, on her birthday, they share a message. We love you. We're waiting for you. We will never give up. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Drop your thoughts in the comments section and help keep Madeleine's story alive. Awareness brings pressure, and pressure can bring justice.